Okay, now take great pleasure in introducing a real mayor, Furio Honsell, who is a full professor of informatics in mathematics at the University from Pisa originally, and then he became a professor at Udine, where he's now dean of in the Faculty of Science and Mathematics. But more importantly, for our purposes, he's been the mayor of Udine for 6 years. He's just been elected for his second term. He's not wearing a sash, but I can promise you he's genuine. Furio.
So good morning to everybody, Mr. Mayor. It's a privilege to be here. I did bring my scarf, but you see, I brought also what is called, this is called Jacob's Ladder. Because when I became mayor, I wanted to build a science museum coming from university, but I didn't have enough money, so I ended up with a toy library and with wooden toys. So I brought a few here, and because they actually stimulate, they told me I have to make a show, so I thought, what shall I bring? Can you all see that this is slightly slanting? Can you see it? So when you put this here, it goes down. Huh? But what happens when you put this here? It goes the other way. So little experiments and little games can in fact help you to make this shift in often in perspective that is necessary in these very, very hard times. So I move back here, and here you can see is my secret municipality and university. So you see it's uni for both, iti for both, but then here and here I get Sipal and Vers and M. Municipality and university, not that big distance. You all want to know where is Udine? Oh, by the way, thanks for this, because this reminds me, I am an URBACT enthusiast and not an URBACT skeptical. Because indeed I found here in URBACT the same atmosphere, the same engaging atmosphere that I did find in the best times, in the hate times of computer science, where we were all hackers. That's how I started. But now I am 55 years old, can you imagine? Well, so everybody wants to know where Udine is. So this is Italy, we're here. And of course, Udine. And Udine is here. Okay? Udine has a population of 100,000, the small part. That's why I picked it, so that I can get my percentages more easily. And then I have greater Udine. In fact, I have to cater for many, many more people. With difficult times. Why? Well, especially political dissatisfaction. We have anti-established movements everywhere. And this recession is extremely virulent. It acts, as I say, as a multiplicative factor. It happens that there are companies that are boosting in this time. And you know why? Because all the competition around them has died. So this is very dramatic. And these inequalities and inequities make things very, very, very hard for people. Why? I have been looking into the matter. Why is it good, besides ethical reasons? Why is it good that we try to build a more equitable society? And then eventually I found the answer. And this is my first, I think I have to be inspiring, so I will recommend this book, The Spirit Level. Why equality is better for everyone. So, of course, everyone benefits from greater equality, but even among the privileged, if you have a more equitable society, also privileged are better off. And this is some very deep fact that I try to show you with this little mathematical pattern, which really amounts to what is called regressive analysis. So you try to plot income inequality here on the x-axis, and various indexes on the y-axis. And as you see, the more, the higher the inequality, the worse performance. And these indexes do not affect, as I say, only the poor people. They affect also the privileged. Now you might wonder why Japan, why say Sweden and Norway are the most equitable countries. This is also interesting, and why Italy is here. And, well, you can look on. I apologize for the other countries, but these actually are official figures. You can play around, of course, with the various indexes. But this is a great moral lesson, which is not only what you believe in, this is true mathematics. Also, if you want to get a better society, better school performances in your children, better, less infant mortality, of course, less obesity, you have to have a more equitable society, more equity. And, of course, one of the patterns was equity in health. Now, look at my, I will get back to that, but I will get back to that. The reason I got involved, I'll say it straight away, the reason I got involved in URBACT was because I had a Roma issue in my city. Not a very big issue, but politically it was, as you might understand from my position, I am not right-winged, I am not precisely, I don't own any TV network, and I don't like politicians who own TV networks, but I had to stand up as a mayor in an area where this issue was heavily politically utilized, the presence of Roma people. And so for this reason, at some point, I had to grab on something. And I thought, well, what can I grab on? And there came this offer of a partnership from a URBACT network, and so I went straight for that. This turned out to be the RomaNet, a very successful project, at least from my point of view. I hope I can tell you. But for me as a mayor, it was a huge advantage to be able to say, well, I addressed the problem of these Roma people because I have a transnational movement behind me. I have an URBACT network, a European network, who says that it is in fact something that we have to address. This is the most disadvantaged minority in Europe. And so this, I could face them because I had this. It's a huge advantage. You might not consider it if you're not mayors, but if you are, and you are constantly under the pressure of the opposition, it is actually something that makes a huge difference, also for your own self-efficacy, because you might at some point start thinking, but well, is it important or not? You know, when you get so much pressure. But then, of course, you look around, you look at what happens in Europe. We were, by the way, I liked very much the little card yesterday. Asking, you know, in order to start up the relationship. I congratulate URBACT because they're very accurate also in the little details. One of the questions was, what actor would you like that should play your part in your life movie? I think that was the question. Yeah. And well, one of the reasons I got here was because in Magdolna, which is it's a neighborhood in Budapest where we were for our URBACT RomaNet meeting. At some point in the evening, we had this playback theater. And the playback theater, it's a beautiful idea. So you have these, you have to tell them a story, yours or your own story, and then these actors play it in front of you. And I was the first, of course, to go there and tell them what my story was. And so I had been played back. And for this reason, I think they appreciated my life history. And so they asked me today to give this little presentation. Now, I mentioned the Roma people for many times because they are extremely disadvantaged. I give you a few numbers. 1 out of 4 of my citizens is above 65. You know how many centenaries I have in Udine? Well, do you know in your cities how many centenaries? How many do you think? No, in Udine we have 63 centenaries. I have actually to update every day the figure. I'm sorry. No, sorry for this joke. It's a bad joke, but you know, you have to laugh every now and then. Well, we have a lady who is 113. She's the 15th most elderly person in the world. So, you know how many in our community of Roma people, we have something between, let's say, 600 and 700. You know how many of these Roma people, they are Udine citizens. They didn't come in as immigrants. They came over, you know what is there? How many above 60 are there? only 2%. So this is a clear example of health inequity. So that's why I think that when we talk, you notice my title is How to Turn a Bunch of Keywords, of Buzzwords, into Concrete Practices. Well, it's an example to address. I'm afraid that I have gone over all the time I had, but I want to really touch upon a few issues. The importance, just think about the importance of crossing borders. And it's not a matter only of being intersectoral, interdisciplinary, interprofessional, international. This is something you have to do also in science, by the way. But being trans, being capable of crossing borders, being capable of moving, so transnational, this is what I really like in the URBACT. So the new approaches, of course, in this time of change are the holistic approaches, whole of society. Health is a whole of society, whole of government, has to be addressed only with a whole of government approach. But how do we achieve unlimited progress, which I think is possible, without having unlimited growth? Well, we can. And the issue is essentially, because this is one of the messages, that democratic and scientific methods are two of a kind. There is a very, very close analogy between the two. And in fact, promoting knowledge is much more an ethical issue than it is a metaphysical issue. So mathematics of politics, this is probably the best known example of a Renaissance mathematician, and so I can go on and on, could speak for hours on this picture, but I will not. I will just tell you the importance of numbers, and also of the first derivative. I don't know how many of you still remember from your calculus classes. So this is the variation. In politics, the one who has the most power is the one who has had the biggest increase in the number of votes. It always has to do with increases, also in economics. So look always at the first derivative. I can go on and on telling you what the analogies are between science and democracy. Let me just point out a few things. Public debate, incremental growth. You have to foster progress rather than achieve perfection. You cannot achieve. Only fundamentalists want to achieve perfection. That cannot be done. In science, it can't be done. We know already that even Einstein's theory have been overtaken. And also, there's another important issue. It is not necessary both in science and democracy to eliminate all conflicting positions until you're left with only one. It's not necessary. You can coexist with a paraconsistent logic very, very often. You have to, because you don't know actually what will happen in the future. But of course there are many other issues, transparency, accountability, you have to prove your things, innovation. Okay. Now, here there are various, I like URBACT because of their mind tools. I really like them. There are other mind tools. One of them is that has been often utilized in addressing the problem of doing less with more is this stabilization triangle and how to split up the wedge in order to reduce costs. Of course, I cannot really get into the details, but I just wanted to point out that there are. Let me touch upon a few issues. How can we do more with less? Well, we have to avoid fragmentation. That's the most difficult thing. That's why people have to be trans-professional in some sense. And one of the very, very important things of URBACT was not to suggesting that we should do something, but that we should network. These local support groups, I had them all the time there in my city. I had the NGOs, I had my healthcare workers, I had my municipality workers, but they had sort of lost interest, lost hope. They were duplicating activities, and ultimately they were not having really any impact. One of the best achievements of my URBACT project was precisely to have this local support group in force. And it is there. And it has solved many of the problems that I probably could have solved earlier if I would have had these people actually sharing the views or deciding what not to duplicate. So let me touch another point. Efficiency, reduce waste of human, economic, financial, this especially in health. In health, there is over-treatment, over-diagnosis. But let me touch a very, very serious point. What do we do about the right to die? I am fighting to build a hospice. What happens in the last month, in the last 2 weeks? You know, there is even an issue of the so-called the swan song. Do people have a right to have a swan song? In the last days, there is such a moment. We have to provide such facilities. It's probably more important to provide that rather than go on and on investing in, as I say, over-treatment, over-diagnosis, which are extremely... And, of course, there is this issue of defensive medicine. A lot of money can be saved if we reduce defensive attitudes. Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is there. Bureaucracy, I think it was Hannah Arendt who said, bureaucracy, it's even worse than fascism, because it is the government of nobody. Because in bureaucracy, responsibility is split to the point that you cannot account anybody for what's happening. Nobody is accountable. So the splitting of responsibilities, and this is something that has to be addressed. Of course, bureaucracy has its duties. I am a computer scientist. I have worked in operating systems. An operating system is just bureaucracy. So there is also, but sometimes you have to of course, avoid that the computer just goes on and on, looking in what it is itself is doing. So, social capital as a common good. I just want to mention an issue: the For All movement, the bus. Probably not everybody knows his Latin very well. By the way, Mr. Mayor, how is the halitosis in your city? It's improving. Yeah, you know, okay. It's declining. I'm glad that in Allium this problem has been solved. No, Latin, sometimes the bus, it comes from omnibus. It is for everybody. So this sports for all, not just for the best. I met the mayor of yesterday, and you know, we talked about football, because I have a top in my city, the Udinese. Udine is close to Venice. No, it has Udinese. No, but there's not one single player in the whole team. This is a Serie A. This is top team. There's not one single player from the city. And so sports for all movement is something extremely important. Now, here I would like to talk about the liberalism versus solidarity. You know, in Europe we don't have a European constitution. Okay. But constitutions are quite important, especially now that we have to enforce customers' rights and subscribers' rights. And even sustainability, if you look at it, again, it's the rights of the environment, but the rights also of a new kind of people, the future generations. So, golden rules. Think out of the box, and URBACT provides this, of course, very, very naturally. And the second thing is, this I think is Picasso who said this. Yeah? He says only true artists are able to copy, and of course, and this is you have to copy, and I copied a lot of things. Now think out of the box. My best puzzle is this: you have 3 matches, okay, 6 matches, huh? 1 match here, 1 match here, 1 match here, and you can move only 3 to make 4 equilateral triangles. This you have to think out of the box. Okay. Now, well, that's a puzzle. I mean, you can solve it on your way back on the plane. Now, numbers. Numbers are very, very important. For instance, 100 cubic meters, the amount of built space per inhabitant. The 200 liters a day, that is what our water consumption. You know, in the loo, just 1 flushing is often sometimes like 15 liters. This is the amount of fresh water that people have in certain parts of the world. Our daily water consumption is 200 liters. 46 years is our average age. 1 out of 4, I already told you, is 1 out of 8 is the people over 75 that we have. Even a political agenda you can build with numbers. 33% of the number of in nursery of positions for children in nursery schools. This is the European recommendation. 100% houses connected to the sewage system. I didn't have this when I started as a mayor. Now I reached 98%. Now, again, once you have numbers, you can set targets. I was amazed yesterday when they presented the breakup of mobility in the architect here of mobility in Copenhagen. You know, she said 37% by bicycle. Then it was 34 by public transport, 7% walking, and only 20-something by car. Well, you know what's the situation in Udine? It's 70% private vehicle, 15% buses, 15% bicycles. And of course, this is not good for under many. So once you, but I could measure it. I did measure it, and now I set myself a standard similar to the 20-20-20 Covenant of Mayors, which I call the 25-25-25, just to, which I would like by the 2025 to reach at least 25% public transport, 25% bicycle, and 50% private vehicle. But already this, if we could have this throughout Italy, it would be a fantastic revolution. So you see, numbers are good to set targets, are good to know what you're talking about. These are the CO2 tons per worker in 1 year in our municipality. This is the consumption of waste. Anyway, I have many now. Okay, now this is Udine. You want to see it? We have mountains. We have. Okay, well, you can see historical places. It's almost like allium. We have little less garlic, but not much, because being in Italy, we use a lot of garlic. We have these waterways. They used to produce drink. They used to bring energy also to the city. Now I have put turbines in order to produce renewable energy. Turbines, you'll see this. Oh, here, this is another issue. What is a street? What is a square? These are ontological issues, but when you want to make them pedestrian, you find out that it doesn't really make much difference. So I had a huge political fight on this object here, which, is it a square or is it a street? But I have also the rundown areas. This is one of my illegal settlements, Roma illegal settlements. These are examples of devotion. Devotion, this is the Archbishop, this is in the Roma settlement, religious devotion. Then they say that all Romas are Muslim, so you see, prejudice is, this is our electricity, again from the Roma settlements. Often they're called population pyramids. You know why? Because in 1871 they were indeed a pyramid, but now this is what they are in 2011. So they're not a pyramid, it's sort of like a kind of mug. I am glad that there are cities that have a lot of young people, but for us it was the year 1974 when the mortality rate overtook the natality rate. It's good to measure many other indicators. Some of them are important. One of them is the dependency ratio. You hear the population from 0 to 14 plus the population of 65 over the working force. Percentage of older people. Many old people live alone. Look at the figures. And of course you have to address the issue of beautiful, but I don't have time. So we did the master plan of the city in the past 5 years, and one of my achievements was that I reduced over 1 million of potentially, by over 1 million of cubic meters, the potential usage of land. So I'm pretty happy. These are the green areas in the city. Perception, 4 minutes, okay. Paradigm shifts. You have to do this all the time, which is actually quite enjoyable. Here I put some, I'll show you this very fast in 4 minutes. So the missing card, because of course if, I'll do it, okay, look. Okay. memorize one of the following, okay? Done? Okay, now with this I can read your mind, now I'll make it disappear. Did I succeed? Yeah, okay, now, so how did I do it? Well, no, socio-political manipulations and fallacies, they often derive from innumeracy. We overestimate rare events. I have some very, very entertaining examples here and some very dramatic examples here. How you can fool with percentages. Why minorities always feel somehow to be a subject of some stigma, even when they're not. How come we overestimate rare events? But also the xenophobic paradox. You know, very, very often it's more likely. I'll just mention these two. One is the progressive. Now this is dramatic. I think in all our constitutions it says that people who earn more should pay higher percentage of taxes. But now when you look at both the direct and indirect taxes, this does not happen. These are the 5 percentiles, that is, the population is divided in fifths according to the most well-off to the least well-off. The dark green is their gross income, and the dotted green, when it differs from the dark green, is the actually net income once you have taken away all the indirect and like VAT and the rest, indirect taxes. And as you see, the worst off people eventually pay more than the better off people. And people have to think about this. The burden very, very often is always discharged on the people, on the poorest segments of our society. So we are absolutely not equitable. This is totally unconstitutional. But of course, nothing much can be done unless we make all politicians, but really all citizens, a little bit more literate. Now, beware prejudice. This is so-called the xenophobic paradox. If someone says, "Oh, I was mugged by an immigrant," if you do the computation, it turns out that it's more likely that you made a mistake. Now, he's showing me that he's cutting my throat if I don't stop, which I don't want to happen because I have some duties to run in Udine. But I was here planning to tell you essentially how it came that I became a mayor. But let me just end up here. The role of the mayor. Well, the mayor, remember, has very little effective power. It's more planning and control rather than execution. And really, professional administrators, we are constantly fighting against opposition and our professional administrators. It's a constant fight. And often the conflict is there, deliberate, and often it is just friction. And here I just wanted to show you the kind of problems that one has to address, like from the snowfall, just about the noise made by the local pub, and this is the things I had to address last week. No, not the snowfall, but this year I still remember what happened. And people seeking asylum. Okay. Now, as I said, I had my 5 years of solitude as being a mayor, and but I ran for 5 more years of solitude. But luckily, when I come here, I feel that probably I'm not alone, and I will end up with this. I will end up with this. I don't have any more. Oh, I didn't have even time to touch upon all the various transnational city networks and movements that I am part of. And of course, the URBACT is here, but I have the Covenant of Mayors, age-friendly cities, healthy cities. Let me finish up. There are so many interesting things that I have learned, but I think this incremental approach that has to be addressed is quite important. It's really what science teaches us, that you never know what is the best theory, but you have to improve it every day. And probably I will end up, since it's a matter also of making important speeches, I will end up with a sentence that is often attributed to Gandhi, that really the important thing is to be the kind of change you would want to see in the world, and that's the best you can do. Thank you very much for your attention.